Hey, welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Leticia Ringe, and this is the space to be for high vibe people looking to create a beautiful life and business. Let's do this. Welcome back to the podcast, my beautiful friends. I am Leticia Ringe, your host, and as always, it is such a pleasure to be here with you all. Welcome to season 7, everybody, or at least I believe that's the season that we're up to. It is now 2022. I have had over a month off on the podcast. We have gone onto a podcast break without me initially intending to do that. However, at the end of 2021, I experienced a number of difficult personal things happening in my life that required some extra TLC for myself. So I gave myself that space with a break from the podcast. I had my month off already scheduled, and I've given myself a slower start back into the business for this year. Now, I know a lot of you have also had difficult things happening at the end of the year and throughout January. It's kind of felt like, has the new year even started? And I've really felt a change in energy come February. So I hope that that's the case for all of you too. And Happy New Year, everybody. I am excited for what we're all going to create and experience this year. I'm excited and so grateful for the life I have right now, exactly as it is. And I'm also open and ready for more. And I hope that's also the way that you too are approaching your beautiful life. Remember that if we cannot be grateful for what we already have, it makes it really difficult to receive more in our life. And this is a beautiful segue into today's topic, which is all about how I managed to create $150,000 in sales in 1 month in 2021. So let's go back to November 2021 last year. During this month, I brought in $150K in sales into my coaching business. Now, what do I mean by sales? I use this word very intentionally because this is not cash received or revenue. Revenue is, when we talk about revenue, we're talking about the amount of money that we actually received into the business, the amount of cash. When someone talks about sales, they're talking about the total amount of the contracts that they have secured. So if you have payment plans, if your clients are not paying upfront, then you are going to have a higher number in sales than in revenue, most likely. So I created $150K in secured contracts in November of 2021. And what this means is I know that I have income coming in over however long my payment plans are, totaling $150,000. Now, I think that this is super cool because what it shows you is how through the course of some really focused attention throughout 1 month, things can change. You can have 150K, which is the equivalent for some people of an entire year's worth of income secured in just 1 month. And actually, this works exactly the same way regardless of what that number actually is. All it takes is 1 day to secure a sale in your business. So if you've never made a sale in your business before, know that things can change in 1 day. And also know that everything that you have been doing, whether it's mindset and energy work or whether it's the actions that you're taking in your business, all of what you're doing is having an impact that isn't necessarily being realized today in this moment, but will be realized at some point. So while I made these sales in 1 month, what I want you to know is that all of the years that I have spent building my community, nurturing my community, delivering to my programs, like I have 166 episodes on this podcast. I have probably about 70 blogs. I've written even more emails and so many social media posts. I've shown up on stories. I've done many, many different things. I've got YouTube videos. I've served clients at a very discounted rate. I've served clients on scholarships. I've served clients for free. All of this
has got me to where I am today. So whatever action you're taking in your business now, you need to trust and believe that that is leading you to where you want to go. Because the actions that one business owner takes in their business to create certain results is not going to yield the same results for others. You need to be moving forward, believing in what you're doing, and then taking the action that makes the most sense for you and your business. Focused action. I'm not out there trying to do everything. I am focused on delivering this podcast. I am focused on showing up on Instagram. I'm focused on having my Facebook group and community, the Holistic Business Community. I'm focused on delivering specific offers in my business, and I forget everything else. I have a relatively small community to other business owners who are making the same kind of money that I am. And still, I have a multiple six-figure business that is growing to 1 million. That's my goal for 2022, is to hit $1 million. So it's not about the size of the audience. It's not about the specific actions that you're taking, but it definitely is about the belief you have behind everything that you're doing. And it's also definitely about following a strategy that is inspired by you and your intuition and makes sense for you and your business. So let's talk about the 5 things that I did to bring in $150K in sales in November. These 5 things are, of course, the 5 pillars to my holistic business framework. The reason for this is it doesn't matter what stage of your business you're at. It doesn't matter what goal you have. The 5 pillars of my holistic business framework give you everything to focus your attention on to grow your business in a way that is both effective and holistic. When I talk about holistic, I'm talking about growing your business in a way that looks after you as the human being behind your business and allows you to step into the role of CEO and coach for your business and your community in the best way possible. When we as the human being are stepping in our own way throughout the business journey, it makes it really, really hard for us to shine and show up as the CEO and the coach for our business and our community. So the 5 pillars of my framework are going to take care of you as the human, allow you to show up as the CEO and coach, and give your business exactly what it needs. So without further ado, let's dive into those 5 pillars of my holistic business framework and let's apply them to how I secured $150K in sales in November. So the first pillar is all about being you in your business, which in the context of my business means allowing myself to show up and be myself for what I need to do in my business. So this means that I need to feel like I get to have fun in my business. I need to feel that I don't need to be someone else. I can still be Leticia. I can still be a hot mess in different areas of my business and in different areas of my life. I can show up and be authentic. I can make silly jokes. I can wear the clothes that I like to wear. I can be really sweaty, which is exactly what I was because I was in Mexico at the time. I get to show up as myself and understand that that is enough. I get to show up at the times that really suit me, that are best for me as the human. And I get to show up in a way that makes sense to me. So for me and my business, I really enjoy running live events. I enjoy showing up on video. I know that that works for me. I also know it works strategically for my community. And when I show up on video, rather than trying to be perfect and trying to be fully scripted and having a bunch of slides or anything like that, I just show up and I speak to the camera. I also choose to show up in our holistic business community, which is our Facebook community, because this is a space that feels really good to me as the human showing up and teaching and serving my community. It also is a really great space for my community too, because it adds a level of privacy that we don't have on other social media platforms and places. So I moved forward into November, allowing myself to be myself, allowing myself to wear the clothes I enjoy, allowing myself to dress up how I enjoy, allowing myself to show up at the times that suit me and show up in a way that suits me. And so just being myself. Now, I did show up and do a series of live events, and one of the things I did was, instead of focusing on trying to show up and be perfect during these series of live events, which never goes too well, instead of trying to show up and talk about everything I know about a topic, I showed up in the time I had available, and I simply spoke about the topic, trusting that I was able to provide helpful information to my community that they didn't know that would support them, and then leave it there. So rather than trying to get everything jam-packed into the time, I just showed up and spoke on the topic and then left, telling myself that that was more than enough. And this for me was a greater exercise in this pillar of allowing myself to be myself in my business. And this allowed so much more ease in the whole process. I actually showed up for a whole month of live events. I think I did at least 10 live events throughout the course of the month. And the only way that that was possible was because I allowed myself to be myself throughout that process. I didn't try to put on a mask. I didn't try to be like someone else. I didn't try to make everything perfect. I wasn't controlled. I just allowed myself to be myself, knowing that that was enough. It's always really helpful to remind yourself that the people who are there at your live event or your training or in your social media are there because they want what you're talking about. They're there because they know that you can help them. So this is a beautiful thing to remember before you show up and create anything for your community. Everybody who's going to see this needs my help, and they're here because they want my help. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. So that is the first pillar of the holistic business framework. Show up in a way that allows you to be you. Ditch anything that does not allow for that. And also appreciate that you might have changed. So back in the day, I enjoyed showing up in a different way to the way that I show up now. I'm always checking in to ask myself, what would feel good to me? But please know that this doesn't mean that I don't feel uncomfortable because my mind is afraid of being seen in a bigger way. My mind is always afraid, just like every other business owner and human out there. Whenever I'm being seen in a bigger way or expanding in my business in a bigger way or exposing myself in some way, my mind is scared as well. But that is not me. That's my mind. And so I'm very good at distinguishing between, is this something that I'm avoiding and it feels uncomfortable because of my mind, or is it something that's truly just not aligned for me? And honestly, at least 90% of the time, it's because my mind is afraid. And so I simply just need to ask myself, what would be the most easeful and fun way of showing up and doing this thing for my business? And I always start there. So that's the first thing that I did, which made it really easy for me to show up in such a big way throughout that whole month. The second thing that I did was I allowed myself, as always, to be led by my intuition, my inner voice. So the idea of running Holistic Business Month, which was a month of live events for my community, was actually an idea that was sparked by my intuition about 2 years ago. And I've been running that whole month of live events ever since. So I had that idea come from my intuition initially, and then it was sparked to run that live event at that particular aligned time, also by my intuition. In October, one day, I had the idea, it's time for another Holistic Business Month. Let's do it. And very quickly, literally that day, I started executing on that intuition because I knew without a doubt that this was the right thing for me to move forward on. Now, I want to just share a word of warning here. Sometimes my clients get really confused with what their intuition is telling them, and it can lead them to actually more confusion in their business because they may have decided on a strategy to create a specific result in their business, and then they keep tuning in with their inner voice, which is amazing, and the inner voice is giving other ideas. You want to make sure that you really make sure your questions to your inner voice are really targeted. If your inner voice is telling you to do something, does this need to be done right now? Is this something that's in addition to what we had already decided upon? Or is it something that's to happen later? These questions are often missed from the questions that we ask ourselves. And this is why, even through following your intuition, you might end up feeling really overwhelmed and busy. You want to make sure that you're always asking for clarity from your inner voice. Very specifically, is this idea something for me to act on now or not? Now, from a human design perspective, particularly for those of you who are generators or manifesting generators, I'll just share this example because that's the bulk of you, but this does apply across the board for all energy types. When we have an inspired idea, which might come from your inner voice, the actual time to move forward on that idea doesn't come until you have your external circumstances flowing opportunities for you to move forward with ease on that particular thing. So you can have an idea and hold the idea and not need to move forward on it. It may not be the right time. And I think that this is a beautiful thing for all of us to think about. Can we have ideas and clarity? Can we know what's going to happen in the future and know that that's not to happen right now? I actually think that this is one of the difficult things about being someone who is very honed in with their intuition and also very psychic. I often know what's going to happen for my clients. I often know what's going to happen for my loved ones. I often know what's going to happen for me. And I know that this is not something that we need to know right now, focus on right now, talk about right now, solve for right now. This is just what's going to happen. And so I can hold that vision of the future and also be in the now, right now, fully, which is all about being present. Now, this is a difficult space to occupy, and it's something that we're all doing, whether you believe that you're very honed in on your intuition or psychic or not, because this is what your mind is doing all of the time, except this is not usually actually what's going to happen. It's what it's afraid of is happening. So your mind is living in the future. It's worried about all these possible scenarios, and then you're living your life from that future, from that fear, rather than actually looking at what is right in front of you. So we all do this to some extent, and I think it's really important to talk about this when it comes to following our intuition. Your intuition isn't trying to make things harder for you. So if you suddenly have a million ideas and a million projects to move forward on, and you feel like it all needs to happen right now, that, my friends, is usually coming from your mind, which thinks that you've only got one shot, one opportunity, in the words of Eminem, to take advantage of this idea. It's like, oh my gosh, if I don't act on it right now, then it's going to all go away. That's not true. You are abundant. You do not need to move forward on everything right now. And focus is what amplifies your energy and your impact in your business. So I would always direct my questions to my inner voice once I've got guidance to do something of how can I move forward on this project? What do you want me to do on this project until I've fully executed the project? And if I have any other ideas that come up that are not aligned with that project, which is all I want to focus on right now and have time for right now, I'll just ask my inner voice for guidance about when that next thing can happen, or I'll just park it to the side for later. Okay, so following my intuition in my business at whatever goal or stage I'm in is crucial, because this allows me to know where to focus my energy in a really powerful way. My intuition will also tell me the specifics for the day-to-day of how to execute whatever that overall project is. So in this case, My intuition told me Holistic Business Month, then it told me to run it in November, then it helped me with all of the individual pieces along the way. I knew strategically what I needed to do, but the way I was going to do each of those pieces, my intuition guided me on. And the only reason it guided me is because I asked every step of the way. This allowed me to never have decision fatigue about what to do. I just ask the question and then I've got the guidance and I move forward. Now, if something that my intuition was guiding me on seemed really counterintuitive to my strategy or to what I know actually works, I would just make sure I get more information from my intuition so that I can make that decision. So leading with your intuition is going to give you the sort of roadmap, and then it's going to give you the steps along the way, and it's going to make decision making really, really easy. And this is something that we hone in on and get you to deepen as the CEO and human behind your business in all of the different programs that I support my clients through. So if you're working with me in any of my 12-month programs, which as you know, give you 12 months of support, which you can upgrade and go into the next program at any point within those 12 months as soon as you're ready for that next level in your business. In all of those, you get an inner voice session with an inner voice facilitator on our team, which will show you how to deeply connect with your inner voice. And then you will be guided in all of our coaching calls to get that guidance from your inner voice. It's incredibly powerful and a really important part of the way I teach business. Now, the third thing that I did was, of course, have a very specific holistic strategy for myself. It is so important to have a strategy for your business. And let's just first of all say something. It doesn't matter what the strategy actually is. There is not a strategy that's better than another one. The only way a strategy could ever be better is because it's more aligned for you, right? The most important thing that we need is to have a strategy, just so we have something to focus on, just so we can know, hey, I'm held. I've got a strategy. I've got something to focus my attention on so that we're not floating out in the abyss trying to do all of the things and feeling confused. Now, you can still feel confused and know that you don't have all of the steps in front of you. You're not meant to. You're meant to do things one step at a time. That's the rule. That's how we work as humans. Any fictitious story about knowing the pathway forward is not true. It is the delusion. You can never know what the pathway forward is going to be, but we can focus our attention on where we're going. So a strategy helps you to do just that. So in my case, in order to make 150K in sales and to hit my goal, which was 100K in sales for the month, I chose the strategy of implementing my live event strategy. I know that this works for me in my business. I've done it plenty of times. I make it very easy for myself in my business. I've been running live events since 2018 and I've never looked back. It works for me. It works for my business. And it also works for most other businesses out there. There's a reason that people are running these. Now, I also didn't focus on selling just one thing. I sold my 3 programs. Now, there are a lot of rules out there that tell you not to sell more than one thing at a time, as in when you're marketing or going through a launch. I agree that we should only start with one offer and sell that, and that we wouldn't have multiple programs to sell until we're at least at 100K in revenue, and I would say actually more like multiple 6 figures. But what I don't agree with is that we can only sell one thing at a time. So while it definitely helps you as the business owner to be focused on just selling one thing, just talking about one thing, there are no rules to say that if you sell this thing that you can't sell people into another program that you have. From my point of view, I really enjoy simply meeting the person who's in front of me and then finding out about them and where they're at in their business, what that problem is that they need to solve, and then I simply match them to the program that will help them. So during that live event, I was selling all 3 of my programs, and that did mean that I was speaking to slightly different people, but because I have my framework, I was speaking to people through my framework at any stage anyway. And this is what I'm always focused on selling, because it's what creates results for my clients regardless of what stage they're in. Then the specific program for them is simply the program that's going to focus on solving the right problem for them. So when we don't have a signature offer for our business that's bringing in 10K in revenue or more, we want to create that. That's the first and only problem to solve. And so I send my clients to Validated, which, by the way, you can find all the information at leticiaringe.com/validated. Now, if my client has prior business experience, or they already have a validated offer for their business, or they're very close, then the best place for them is in my mastermind, the Holistic Business Mistress Mind. And then finally, if my client is already at 6 figures, or they're close to 6 figures, then the best program for them is my Holistic Business Council. Now, if you want to find out about either of those, you can find the details and join the waitlist at leticiaringe.com/mistressmind and at leticiaringe.com/council. So I focused on meeting my community where they're at and simply matching them to the program that supports them best. So my focus strategy was my live event strategy, and I sold all of my programs, but I created focus through focusing on selling my holistic business framework. Now, the 4th pillar of my framework is mindset and energy. And as I always talk about, this is 80% of the work when it comes to growing your business at any stage. This is why all of my programs give you coaching and mentorship support. This is going to help you with the strategy, and more importantly, with the mindset and energy work that will be needed along the way to have you step out of your own way as the CEO and coach of your business. And this was the case for me as well in November, as I opened up to my 100K goal, which was something that I'd already achieved before, and then ultimately created 150K in sales. I set myself a big goal, but I wasn't attached to that goal. I didn't have my life depending on it. I simply set it and I let it go. I did my energy opening ritual, which is the same energy opening ritual that I do every day, morning and evening. To this day, I teach it to all of my clients in all of the programs that I run. And I focused on having fun during this live launch. I went out to lunches, I went out to dinners, I went to yoga, I went for walks, I was in Mexico, a place I love. I was having fun every day, and I was bringing that fun and energy to my launch and to my business instead of expecting my business to give me that fun and to give me that energy. I also celebrated myself every step along the way, personally and privately to myself. I shared with my coach, I shared with my friends, I shared with my family, I shared on social media. I mean, this is really relevant to the work that I do, because as a business coach, I do need to share about these kind of details. So I celebrated myself publicly and privately. And I also sat with what I was holding. So every time a new client signed up, I sat with that person energetically. I felt into their transformation, to their journey. I felt and held the energetic frequency of the wealth I was receiving through that person. And I sat with what I was holding. Now, this does bring up uncomfortable feelings. There was definitely a point along that journey where I was like, enough is enough. This is too much money. This is too much people. My mind does that just like your mind does that. And it's okay. We don't need to make a problem out of it. It's okay. But you want to sit with the discomfort, feel it, allow it to be there. And that's what allows it to then melt away, because you're actually feeling it. So mindset and energy work was the bulk of my focus throughout my month of making those sales. And it's also the focus of every day before that, from the moment I started my business until today. And so this is where it's all at. This is how you step into belief. This is how you stay detached throughout the process. This is how you stay open to receiving in your business. And then finally, the final pillar is my cyclical business method. So of course, I launched over the course of one cycle. I also showed up according to my cycle, which allows me to show up in the physical rhythm of my actual body and hormonal cycle. I tracked my menstrual cycle like I always do. I started during my inner spring. I took time off during my inner winter where I wasn't running any live events, and the way that I showed up throughout the month reflected where I was at in my cycle. So when I was feeling really tired just before my inner winter during inner autumn, when my hormones are starting to plummet and I'm preparing for inner winter where I'm going to have my period and take time off because I need to rest and relax and restore, I started to wind down what I was doing throughout that month. And then as I eased back into the world at the end of my period into my inner spring, I gave myself time to ease back in. So there were times throughout the month where I was more active, more present, more showing up and involved. And there were other times when I was really in that receivership. And that, my friends, is also about energy. This is masculine and feminine energy. You're leaning out, you're leaning in. You're giving and you're receiving. It's this constant shift between the two energies. We're not just in one. And this is actually one of the biggest issues that I see for most of the clients that I work with. Usually they're in too much of one or the other, always giving and not receiving enough, or in the receivership, but not actually giving and doing, which then results in them not receiving through their business. They may receive in other ways, but they're not receiving in the way that they want. And that can be really, really frustrating. So this is exactly what I focused on throughout my month of creating 150K in sales for my coaching business. I focused on being me. I focused on leading with my intuition. I focused on having a strategy for my business. I focused on my mindset and energy throughout the whole journey, and I worked with my cycle. That is how I created 150K in sales. It's more important than anything that I did because it allowed me to feel safe as I opened up to more. And if you would love support as you apply this holistic business framework to your amazing business, regardless of what stage you're at in your business, just get in touch. We can support you. Again, you can sign up today and join us in Validated at leticiaringe.com/validated. And you can join the waitlist for both my Mistress Mind and the Council at leticiaringe.com/Mistress Mind and at leticiaringe.com/Council. Now, both the Mistress Mind and Council at this stage will have places open to you. I'm opening up a number of other places in the Mistress Mind, and the Council has places still to join. So now is the time to join. As soon as we have the capacity of people that I can hold in these programs, then we'll be shutting them down and we can get started working together right away today. So my beautiful friends, there you have it. I hope you found that this story really inspiring. Know that you can create this too. We can all create whatever we want in our businesses. And I would love to be able to support you to take your business to whatever your next goal is, because the work that we do as coaches is incredibly important. And I think that there's nothing better than having more of us out there supporting the rest of the world to show up in a way that's truly beautiful to them. All right, my beautiful friends, I'll see you in our next episode. Bye.
Hey, if you're ready to create your very own purpose-driven business too, I invite you to check out my online program, Create Your Beautiful Biz. You'll learn how to create a business that allows you to make your difference and thrive. Just head over to www.leticiaringe.com/CYBB. Let's make creating a business beautiful. I'll see you there.